All right, folks, I'm going to try to be concise in my instruction. The last question and answer was a little inartfully made. The last answer is struck from the record, so please disregard it. Y'all are going to answer questions of fact at the very end. They're going to be simple. Lay witnesses are not allowed to give you the answer to the question y'all going to answer. So, the solicitor's going to rephrase his question to the detective, and we're going to move on from there.
Thank you, Your Honor. Detective, or now Sergeant. Back then it was detective, right?
Correct.
Okay. Don't want to offend you. You work for that sergeant, right?
I'll answer to anything.
Okay. Back September 8th, 2014, in your conversation with the defendant, you bring up the topic of Scooby Snacks.
He did bring up Scooby Snacks.
Part of that conversation that this is a legal drug, it's not an illegal drug.
Correct. As I previously testified, he was very specific to point out the legality of it.
So it appeared important enough for him to make sure you understood that.
Yes, it did.
Now, during this conversation, when you're confronting him about the children, you say that's when things got emotional. You had him calm down. But when you confront him about the children, where they are, he gets emotional?
Correct. As previously mentioned, he was already a little emotional over his mother too, and
I think you said something about it's like he's trying to expel nervous energy.
that's what it appeared to be.
Okay. Going to what he said that night, what happened October 28, 2014. And he talks about the time, messing with the outlets, and he's just trying to get to it. And he confronts him. Remember that?
Yes.
And he says he PTs him. Is that right?
Correct.
He spanks him.
Correct.
And he hits him.
Correct. He didn't go more specific than that, but yes.
That's as far as he went in any details.
Correct.
And after, in his words, Natan is deceased.
Yes, that was the word he used, was that he was deceased.
He didn't give you any, he didn't make any statement about, my God, Natan's dead.
No, he immediately jumped into the idea that he heard these voices tell him he needed to deal with the other children.
Well, let me ask you about that. What in the first one he heard? Tim, you're effed.
Yes.
Not Natan, my gosh, you're dead. But Tim, you're effed.
Correct. And he talked about how nobody would believe him that Natan was an accident, so he had to kill the other children and go on the run.
And now, as an investigator, you also realize that prior to Natan becoming deceased, Amber had actually called during this PTing process. Is that correct?
Correct. I don't know if she called during or before, but it was right around that time frame.
Remember her saying how Natan was gasping for air?
Objection. Objection. Rephrase your question.
Based on what Amber said, did you have, let me rephrase it just a bit. Do you remember the words from Natan to his mom? Mom, I didn't mean to do it.
Yes, I do recall that.
And do you remember Mr. Jones being upset because he's been trying to get that out of Natan, right?
Yeah, so
Some admission.
he repeatedly repeated to us that he wanted him to, quote, come off of it.
And he worked at it, and couldn't get the time to say, I'm sorry, I did something wrong.
For hours, according to Timothy.
But Amber makes one quick phone call, and this little 6-year-old says, Mom, I didn't mean to do it. Is that correct?
Correct.
And Tim Jones, at that point, slams the phone down. Well, first he tells her, why do you always take up for the kids, right?
Yes.
He tells her to F off, and he slams that phone down, right?
Correct.
At that point, no other adult walking on this planet ever had any communication with those kids. That was it. That line was cut. Is that correct?
That's correct.
So now it's just Tim Jones and the kids, according to Tim Jones.
Yes, by his own clear admission.
And the kid that was the focus of it all was Natan.
Yes, he repeatedly indicated that Natan was the focal point of all this.
And when he worked them and spanked them and hit on them, sometime during the process, in his words, Natan becomes deceased. Correct?
Correct.
Now, he also tells you he's got a phone. But he doesn't call 911. Why?
He indicated that his immediate concerns were
He told them. That's what I'm asking.
All right.
What he said.
What,
I'll rephrase
you missed that.
What does Tim Jones say is the reason why he didn't use his phone to call 911?
because nobody would believe him.
And
I believe his exact words were something along the lines of, quote, "You're fucked now, Tim."
okay. Now, as an investigator, after that fact, after this, after your investigation, after your interrogation or interview with him, much later, you find that he actually downloaded a YouTube site right after Natan became deceased.
Yes, he told us he killed the later 4 children, I think around 11 p.m., and the download of the American History X video, I believe, was an hour or 2 before that.
And the scene specifically in American History X that he downloads is what?
It's a, I've seen the movie, it's a pretty graphic male-on-male prison rape scene in a shower, if I remember correctly.
So instead of calling 911, we have evidence that he turns to YouTube and watches that.
Correct.
Then his attention turns to those other 4 children.
Yes, it does.
Now let me stop you here for a moment. If Mr. Jones had done something and Natan became deceased, using his words, and he ran out of that house and just left those other kids, if he had just run, what would you as an investigator, what are you over right now?
The Special Victims Unit.
What would you and your unit do with those other 4 kids?
I mean, that's a hypothetical, calls for speculation.
No, it's police work.
That's certainly not relevant.
All right, rephrase that question because that didn't happen here. Just
If those kids, those 4 children, Mira, Elias, Gabriel, and Abigail, have been found alive in the home, and Natan was the only one dead, is your department equipped for investigating using young kids?
We are, and I've got a very experienced team when it comes to those specific types of crimes.
Now, would you interview them, or how do you interview them?
We don't interview children directly, especially that age.
If we're talking about speculation,
This is what they do. I asked what he does.
All right.
Speculation.
But we're talking about a hypothetical that's not even this case.
Yeah, I tend to agree with you.
I have a point,
All
Judge.
right.
It's the,
Okay, sustain the objection, because I stymied them on the irrelevant matter that's come into play later on an exhibit. So, let's move on.
I'll move on. Now, in confronting Mr. Jones, this is the man who we kept hearing said he wanted to do the right thing at the end of that interview on the 9th, correct? Find
Correct.
these bodies, right?
Yes, that's correct.
But of course, that's after he confessed,
Yes.
and he really had nothing else to lose at that point, right?
No, in fact, he and I had a conversation, I think right before we went to find the bodies, where we talk about that specifically, where he says that he knows we couldn't prosecute him without the bodies, but he's going to take us anyways. And we had a bit of a talk about how that's not true, with everything we had at that point, that there was probably going to be a case against him regardless, and it was just the right thing to bring those children home because it's absolutely what they deserved.
Prior to him actually admitting what he had done, isn't it true? He lied, and he lied, and he lied about what he had done and where those kids were.
He did, and as I previously mentioned, I was actually almost directly privy to the one when I was hearing him in the background over that first phone call with Under Sheriff Patterson. I heard him yelling in the background that, or talking in the background. I think they were pretty close to him, that his kids were with friends in South Carolina, and they had already told me that he had said he had no kids, and then came the Walmart story about throwing them out at Walmart because he was afraid of them. And I think that story took a couple of different versions before he finally told us that he had killed them.
And Sergeant Creech, it turned out it was true at some point he did go to a Walmart. Is that correct?
He did.
What was the purpose of going to Walmart?
To buy implements to assist in getting rid of the bodies.
You've seen a video. I'm going to show you two still shots from that. States ID 200, 201. You recognize that as from those, the video?
I do. I've seen those particular still shots before, and the video is previously shown in this court.
Call for this in evidence.
Objection. Okay. Pre-trial objection, you're protected. They'll be admitted subject to the objection. What number are those were?
200 and 201.
States 201, do you see Mr. Jones standing at the register actually making a purchase of these items?
I do.
States 200. Back it up a little bit. You see Mr. Jones walking out with his purchase.
I do.
Now, when he initially was confronted about this purchase, about these items, isn't it true he said the jab saw, which is in that bucket, the jab saw, he was just going to use it for limbing.
Yes, he said it was for cutting limbs, even though you wouldn't use a saw like that for cutting limbs.
The muriatic acid, which is in that bucket, he's going to use for etching PVC pipe.
Yeah, he said etching PVC, and we never asked him to get more specific than that.
But he lied.
Correct.
He later admits what he's doing in that video. He took time to shop. Is that correct?
Yes, he did.
And he took time to shop for items so he could dismember and dispose of his children.
He later said that's what the purpose was of those items.
Y'all confronted him with a handwritten note out of his car, State 79.
We did.
When y'all initially confronted him with this note, I believe he admitted it was his handwriting, right?
He did right away.
isn't it true? He said he couldn't remember what it was about.
He did. He said he didn't know what any of the note was about initially.
And he ends up admitting he lied again. Is that correct?
He does. He later tells us that those were some of the plans he'd come up with.
Now, we've seen some of these items. Number one, do you see where it says head campground?
I do.
Adult bodies? You see
I do. Yes,
sand bones to dust or small pieces? You see that?
I do.
Now, let me get my little pointer here with my finger up. This bit right here, number 2. What does this say right here?
It says loose ends.
See a name Terry?
I do. That would be a reference to Terry Jackson Sr. It's his landlord, and actually somebody I'm very familiar with from my patrol days.
Judge, I would object to that speculation, just a theory.
I'll ask him a specific question.
All right, I mean, if he knows and he makes the question more specific, then he can answer.
During your investigation, were you able to find anyone with the name Terry that had a link to Tim Jones Jr.?
I did. His landlord was Terry Jackson Sr.
Named Christine. Were you able to find anybody by that name that had a link to Tim Jones Jr.?
His babysitter at the time was Christina Elke.
The lady who testified earlier in this case?
Correct.
What is this, Jim Mick? Intel?
That would be what I would presume to be in reference to Jim McConnell, which would have been Timothy's supervisor at Intel.
What is this here? SG?
That would appear to be a reference to Saxe-Gotha Elementary School, where Elias, Mira, and Natan were enrolled.
What about this part? BG? See?
Would probably be a reference to the Boys and Girls Club, where the same 3 children were enrolled in after-school activities.
Is that where they were picked up on August 28th?
It is that sign-in sheet that was previously introduced shows.
That was on that video
Correct.
where you see him picking up his kids. Anywhere in that video show that he's scared?
No, it doesn't.
What is this right underneath that?
It says pediatrician.
Pediatricians work on adults or kids?
Children.
Whose name do you see here?
Amber,
We know who she is.
be his ex-wife.
And then you make this up.
I can't read that, so I'm not sure what that says.
All of these folks are loose ends. Is that correct?
Correct.
Bills. On the same page, he's got what he's going to do to his children. He's got bills. What's TWC?
Time Warner Cable,
SCE&G?
South Carolina Electric and Gas Cooperative.
What's underneath that?
Post Office,
What's underneath that?
car.
Had his car been paid off yet?
To be honest, I'm not sure.
Fair enough. What does it say underneath car?
Bank accounts.
So he's got loose ends and bills on the same sheet where he's going to dismember and dissolve sand children. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Now, when you're investigating a case that involves flight and where you're having to go after somebody, do you look for anything where anybody might take disguise or hide?
I do.
What do we see up here on the
The-
right-hand side of this note?
Tattoos,
What's this?
glasses.
What's this? Can you make that out?
I'm not sure. It might say hats, but I'm not sure.
Okay.
And hunting gear.
Hunting gear. Show you what's in the States. 132. Also found in his car. Need some more notes.
Yes, they are.
And again, if somebody goes outside of South Carolina and you have to go after them, are you looking for any item that might might assist them in hiding.
We would.
What's this word?
Camping supplies.
You see underneath there?
I believe it says gas and jug, maybe.
Okay.
Uric acid,
Uriatic acid.
tent,
Okay.
charcoal, steaks, grill.
Make that out.
Yeah, I'm not sure what that is.
What about underneath that?
I'm not sure what that is either.
So again, these items are relevant to you.
They are.
And over here, needs. Is that what I see right there?
That does say needs.
What's that word right there?
Cash.
What denomination am I looking at as far as money?
$3,500, 401k, and 6,000k.
And then what are we looking at?
Clothes, 4 pants, 8 socks, 8 underwear, 2 shorts, something, and 10 shirts.
Does it look like a plan?
It does appear to be a plan.
Go back to the note. You made note of the day 1, day 2, day 3.
Yes.
Burn up body, stand down bones, dissolve and discard,
Yes.
and a smiley face.
And a smiley face.
This is the man several days later. He said he was about doing the right thing.
It is.
All right, so that's a good stopping point, because you got through those 2 exhibits. Can we stop for the day?
Yes, sir.
Resume in the morning. Go to the jury room, put your stuff up. Don't talk about the case. Enjoy your evening. See you in the morning. Try to start 9 o'clock sharp.